They pressed their best clothes, practiced their smiles, and had absolutely no idea how young they were. Somewhere in the mid-1970s, two teenagers stood at the edge of a night that felt enormous, and would spend the rest of their lives trying to remember exactly how it felt. She was everything the Ju-88 wanted to be: faster, higher, deadlier, and arriving just late enough that the war had already chosen its winners. The Ju-188 flew beautifully over Rye that was running out of sky to defend. Tutankhamun's tomb had just cracked open, and Paris lost its mind beautifully. Paul Poiret dressed 1923 in hieroglyphs and gold, draping ancient Egypt across modern shoulders before the decade was done reinventing everything. Fashion has always known that the oldest stories make the boldest statements. The hairstyle alone held centuries, each coil announcing she was unmarried, of age, of her people. Adam Clark Vroman photographed this Hopi young woman in 1901, 1 year before federal boarding schools began cutting hair exactly like hers. He captured her just in time. Japan built her to stop bombers she could barely reach, a last desperate answer to B-29s tearing cities into ash. The Ki-100 was arguably Japan's finest fighter, arriving in 1945 when finest no longer mattered. She sits here grounded, the war already decided above her. The propeller didn't fall, it buried itself in the wing like a blade, and somehow the B-17 flew home anyway. A crew chief at the 379th examined what flak did on May 9, 1944, and understood exactly how close everyone aboard had come to never landing. Home is the word he uses because there is no other word available. Edinburgh, Texas, 1939, a father and daughter inside walls that barely qualify, during a depression that never quite reached the people making decisions about people like them. She is watching him. He is holding. Nobody had heard of him yet, just a truck driver from Memphis with hair that didn't apologize and something unnameable behind the eyes. Early 1950s, before the record, before the television, before the world lost its composure completely over a boy it hadn't met yet. She flew slow and low over Tokyo Bay, eyes of a navy that still believed it controlled the Pacific. The E-7K-2 reconnaissance seaplane saw everything beneath her wings, and could do nothing about what was already coming from the opposite direction. Her hands knew the rhythm before her mind did: thread, shuttle, thread, the loom's relentless pulse. Ireland, 1890s, a woman inside the industrial age that needed her labor and never once learned her name. The glass kept her anyway. The factory never would have. She should have sunk. On March 19, 1945, a single Japanese bomb ignited everything: ammunition, fuel, aircraft, killing over 800 men in minutes. Yet USS Franklin limped across the Pacific alone, and on April 28 brought her wounds home to Brooklyn, still breathing. They arrived as maids and endured years of silence, humiliation, and hands that should have known better. When the Papin sisters finally broke, they broke completely, the Lancelin home in Le Mans becoming something French courts spent years trying to find the right word for. They fed the belt in and waited for orders in a war already consuming Russia from the inside. An American Colt in Russian hands on the Eastern Front, 1916, 1 year before revolution would make every weapon, every uniform, and every loyalty suddenly mean something different. She is exhausted in the specific way only mothers understand, and he finds absolutely everything hilarious. Circa 1900, no names, no country, no record of what made him laugh that hard. Just a tired woman holding joy she didn't know she'd still be sharing a century later. Paris named it Venus and meant every syllable. Lucien Lelong draped 1921 in something between mythology and modernity, a city still exhaling from war, deciding that beauty was not indulgence but survival. The dress didn't just clothe a woman. It made an argument. From above she looked like nothing else in the sky. Twin booms, twin engines, a silhouette that made German pilots recalculate everything. June 1944, over English countryside, a P-38 Lightning already knowing what waited across the channel. Normandy was 3 weeks old beneath her wings. Joseph Purnell pointed his camera at Junction City and found Nellie Brown looking back like she already knew this moment would outlast everything else about her. 1890s Kansas, a portrait that refused to be ordinary, taken by a man who clearly understood the difference. She was 51 when America first watched her cook, convinced no network would want her. By 1964, Julia Child had already dismantled every assumption about who belongs on television. Flower on her apron, joy in her voice, making French cuisine feel like something a real person could actually survive. Kim Jong-il wanted a film industry, so he simply stole one. In 1978, North Korea abducted South Korea's most celebrated director and actress, forced them to make propaganda for years, until Vienna offered one unguarded moment, and they ran toward an American embassy and didn't look back. She weighed 4,000 pounds and carried only one purpose: to erase whatever stood beneath her. Ground crews loaded cookies onto Wellingtons with the careful hands of men who understood exactly what they were touching. RAF 319 Squadron sent this one into the dark and didn't name it gently. The pond holds the sky and the village holds its breath around it, the same stillness that had settled here for generations. Zaluski, early 1920s, a Polish village between two wars that hadn't finished deciding what this land would be called or who it belonged to. She came down somewhere in the Pacific and stayed there, aluminum and ambition swallowed by jungle or reef or sand. The B-26 Marauder had a reputation for killing her own crews in training. Whatever finished her here, the Pacific kept the details entirely to itself. He carried a nation's dignity into a studio in 1898, when that nation had already been broken, relocated, and reduced to policy. Wolf Robes sat for this photograph and gave the camera something it didn't deserve, a face so powerful it may have ended up in every American's pocket. They were building a fantasy in the desert: marble columns, Roman ambition, and enough neon to embarrass the gods. March 1966, Las Vegas raised Caesar's palace from sand and audacity, a city that never once asked whether any of this was a reasonable idea. They couldn't even get married without it becoming a song. Passport trouble at Southampton, March 15, 1969, John and Yoko stranded, then Gibraltar, then a honeymoon turned headline turned lyrics. Only Lennon could trip over bureaucracy and hand the world a Beatles record on the way down. They did not call it genocide, they called it relocation. Beginning in 1915, at least 664,000 Armenians, possibly 1.2 million, died inside the Ottoman Empire. The world watched, debated the numbers, and spent the next century arguing about what to name what everyone already knew. He stood at Chateau Thierry where American troops had finally turned the German advance back, a hinge moment in a war that had been breaking Europe for 4 years. Major General Edwards, 1918, wearing the particular expression of a man who understood exactly what had just been decided here. They carved the last meal in stone so hunger would never follow the dead. This funerary stele from Byzantium, 200 BCE, borrowed from Hittite and Assyrian hands, civilizations speaking to each other across centuries through the one ritual every culture understands: you do not let someone leave without eating.